cloud factory. It was a dark and stormy night on the island of Sodor. None of the mainline engines could sleep that night. The noise from outside kept them all awake. Percy had been shunting trucks in the yards at the big station before the storm hit, so he was ordered to stay with the big engines that night. Percy didn't like being around the big engines. They made him feel so small.
Be careful in the morning, little Percy. We wouldn't want you falling off any keys or sinking any floods again. Ha ha ha!
Be quiet!
Percy snapped.
We all know you're the one who's afraid of the rain, Henry.
You know, little Percy, while I do congratulate you on getting your passengers home during a flood, a big engine like me wouldn't have to be stopped. I'd be far taller than the water levels and my fire wouldn't be unaffected. I certainly wouldn't have to take my guards' floorboards.
Percy huffed and shut his eyes. The following morning, the storm was over, and Sir Topham Hatt arrived at the sheds.
The power station on the Peel-Godred line had a blackout during the storm, Percy. I need you to take a repair crew,
said Sir Topham Hatt.
Yes, sir!
Answered Percy.
I don't understand why they'd send such a small engine for an urgent job,
Huffed James.
Surely a bigger engine is more suited for an important rescue operation like this.
You lot have your own trains to pull, not to mention some of you would be too long for the branch. Percy is the ideal size for this job. Not too big, not too small. He's, medium-sized,
remarked Sir Topham Hatt. Percy giggled. The bigger engines grumpily watched as Percy set off for the power station. Percy hadn't ventured down the Peel-Godred line before. He liked taking in all the new sights as he puffed along with his repair train. Soon they arrived at the power station. The men exited the coach and went inside to work. Percy yawned as he looked up at the early morning sky.
Perhaps I could catch a few winks here.
But just as Percy was about to close his eyes, he heard a very unfamiliar whistle.
I wonder who that could be.
A little purple tank engine puffed right beside Percy.
Good morning.
Peeped the little engine.
Sorry if I gave you a fright. It's been rather crazy here. Blackouts cause a lot of problems, you see.
That's all right. My name is Percy. What's yours?
Little Barford's the name, and keeping Sodor shining is my game,
chuckled little Barford. Percy couldn't help but giggle too.
I've never seen you before. You're as small as the engines on the Skarloey Railway.
I may be small, but I've a very important job, I'll have you know,
little Barford said sternly.
Without me, there'd be no coal for the power station, and then there'd be no power for the whole island.
Percy was very impressed.
Where do you get your coal?
There's a transfer yard further down my line. Once a month, a big engine like you brings a large shipment of coal, and it's loaded into my trucks. I bring them down here and keep the others in the sidings for later.
Percy blushed and smiled. Nobody had called him a big engine before.
I do hope I can see you again soon,
said Percy as the men climbed back into the coach. Percy gave a friendly peep of his whistle and he set off. That night, Percy was stationed back in the mainline sheds as he'd be taking the post train later that night.
Well, little Percy, how did your rescue operation go? Didn't run into any backing signals on Peel-Godred, did you?
Teased James.
Next time you mainline engines look up at the lights in your shed, just remember, there's a little engine out there who's working hard to make sure it stays on.
The mainline engines didn't know what Percy meant, but Percy, the medium-sized engine, did, didn't he?